turn off on me.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, 1 second, please. Okay, cool. So you should see my screen now. Hey everyone, my name is Kirill. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Preply. Preply is a global marketplace for online language tutoring. And today we would like to talk about culture. What I like to say is that majority of people misunderstand the meaning of culture. And from my experience, many people kind of would refer to some perks that company provides, or to help people talk to each other, and if people like the same things. But for me, culture is not really about that. For me, culture is about behavior of people at their workplace, how they make decisions in their business environment. And there are two quotes here. So one quote is from a very nice book by Ben Horowitz. It's actually the name of the book, What You Do is Who You Are. And I would highly recommend you to read it. I really like it. And another quote is, culture is how people behave when you leave the room. And I think that's a very good expression because for me, it's actually how you can make decisions in your business without being told what to do, right? And if you have a strong culture, you can avoid a lot of management, and you scale. You can scale organization in much easier way. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. So the first story is from 2016. We were a small team, so it was initially 3 co-founders. Then we grew, we became a team of 40 people. And in 2016, we introduced 2 new product managers to the organizations. So it was 2 first product squads. And both product managers were skilled, experienced, and they had similar team size, though decisions and solutions were completely different. To the extent that we were extremely happy with one product squad, and we were quite frustrated with another product squad. And it was not only about the end solutions, but also about the things about how we were coming to those solutions. So how we were building our product, and we sit together and we try to understand, what is the difference, where we see difference in which parts. And at that time, we found 3 things. We found that we really like data-driven decisions when it comes to product. We really like simple and fast solutions and iterations. And we really like when we get things done very quickly. On the opposite side, we didn't like opinion-driven decisions, when someone expresses opinion and drives it to their conclusion to decide on their solution. The second piece, we didn't like complex solve-it-all solutions, because usually we would make many mistakes on bigger projects, and also those projects were running quite long. And we didn't like when we saw some artificial blockers that teams put in front of themselves. So there was kind of a first iteration of our values and what we thought we really like and value, and what we don't like. So we came up at that point with those 6 values. So it basically was thirst for knowledge, goal orientation, thinking global, every day counts, data is king, and keep it simple. So it was 6 values. Well, the good thing was that we finally started thinking about our values. The bad thing was that um, we didn't quite incorporate those values into the organization. So we would point out every time to those values, but we still saw that organization behaves kind of in a different ways depending on a team. So we did another iteration in 2018, but again, both iterations they became just the words on the wall. And we stepped back and we tried to understand. So how we should define our values that everyone understands and everyone can rely to, how to make them live through the organization, and how to actually check culture fit in different parts of the organization. So in 2020, we started a new iteration, almost from scratch. And this time we did something very interesting. So first of all, we wanted to make sure that it's not opinion of founders how the culture should be, but it's actually what culture is today. So we created three groups. So there was three founders, it was leadership team, CMVP level, and it was culture crew. So culture crew, it was people from the organization that we thought have a good culture fit to what we would imagine our culture is. And then with these three groups, we run three different exercises. So with founders, the exercise we ran was really understanding our history and understanding what was the key drivers for us when we were making good and bad decisions, and that was quite insightful workshop, because we looked at our key moments in the organization when we made a good breakthrough or when we made a big mistake, and we're trying to understand what were the drivers behind. So that was the first workshop, and we had a list of behaviors and things we value and things we don't like from that workshop. The second part was about culture today. So we basically gathered two groups, culture crew and leadership team. It was two different workshops, and we asked those teams to come up with the descriptions of our culture today. And basically, it was like 1 hour call with each group, and we came up with again a list of behaviors and things we value and things we don't see in the organization, and that was kind of the second exercise. And the third exercise was really about our aspiration, who we need to become to achieve hypergrowth. And we first discussed what is hypergrowth, and we said 10x in the next 12 months. That would be a quite nice hypergrowth. So let's try to have this huge goal for us. Let's try to describe it. What does it mean? How organization would change? And then let's ask leadership team and culture crew what values and what behaviors organization need to show to have this hypergrowth. So in this third workshop, we also get a list, and then we save all the thoughts, we mix them all, we then started structuring and grouping them, and in the end, we kind of refined them, and we came with those 6 values. So it's basically learner obsessed, curious, human, hungry, hackers, and humble. So those was 6 values that we defined. And each value had actually a couple of definitions. So it was basically a group of some additional smaller values. And now I'll provide you an example of hacker value. So when we say we are hackers, what we really mean is that we want to move fast. We have bias to action. We learn by doing. We don't get stuck in analyzing. We apply Pareto principles. We find shortcuts. It also means that we keep things simple. We challenge our true MVP. We make the effort to make it simpler for everyone. Another piece was integrating perceived opposites. So building quick but stable having a simple solution but elegant. It's not really, and what we didn't want to have is that we didn't want to have quick and dirty solutions, for example. And the last one was delay automation, and basically only do automation when we need to avoid the unbearable pain. And kind of those 4 definitions is what we mean by hacker. And hacker is kind of, a group, a meaning of those 4 smaller definitions. And what another piece that was super important is how to integrate those values into the organization now. And basically, one thing that I've learned through my journey in Preply is that there are really 3 tools to build your culture. It's hire the right people, part ways with the wrong people, and promote people with the best culture fit. And to achieve that, we introduce behavior-based interviews to be able to check each value in a candidate. And we work with different consultants, and now we have a quite decent framework how we understand if it's a good culture fit or not. We also introduced additional interview step, which would be culture check, and it would be done by our culture crew. So, and they would have, it's similar to what Amazon would call bar raiser interview. So that's basically culture crew would check culture, and if there is no culture fit, the person from culture crew that has no bias in the decision here can reject the candidate, even if hiring manager wants to hire this person. The second piece was integrating culture in our performance review process. And we are going to run our first 360 culture and evaluation in the organization in this couple of weeks. So basically, we come up with a framework when we highlight what we need to do in which situations. And basically, it's a 4-on-4 metrics. And on a vertical axis, you would have performance. If you're happy with performance, if person meets expectations or meets some expectations or doesn't meet expectations. And then on a horizontal axis, we would have a culture fit. And also the same kind of, exceed expectations, meets some expectations, and doesn't meet expectations. And then depending on where each person would be, we would be able to identify what is the next step. Should we promote this person? Should we work on performance management, or should we part ways? And the last piece, which is extremely important, is also related to these metrics, is that we need to promote people with the best culture fit. And this is extremely important, in my opinion, for 2 key reasons. First of all, is not what you say, it's what you do. So if you're promoting person with the best culture fit, other people will see it, and other people would understand that to be promoted, you actually need to have a good culture fit and certain behaviors. And second piece is that when you're promoting people to management positions, they actually, if they have a very good culture fit, they would have a bigger impact on their team in terms of culture, and they would, coach people and grow people with the same list of values. So that was kind of 3 key things that we started doing to actually integrate it better in the organization. And I think today it's working quite well, and we are I think by the end of this year, we'll be in a very nice place in terms of the culture in the organization, how we think about it and how we grow it. Another part that I wanted to share with you is a shocking rule. So that's actually the piece that I read from Ben Horowitz's book, which is called "What You Do Is Who You Are." And he has this concept of shocking rule. It's rules that will change your company culture. And he basically introduced this concept as a tool that you need to use when you want to make a shift in the organization from one state to another. And he provided a couple of examples in his book. So one of the examples was by coach of New York Giants, Tom Coughlin. And basically the rule was, if you're on time, you're already late. And he told to all his team that they need to come to the meetings 5 minutes before the meeting. And if they don't come 5 minutes before the meeting, they'll have a fine of $1,000. And initially, it had a huge pushback from the organization, and the organization couldn't understand why you need to come 5 minutes earlier. But the team shared afterwards that it actually helped them to become much more disciplined and responsible when it comes to trainings and commitments to each other. And that was one thing that Tom introduced and made his team much more disciplined. Another shocking rule that you probably heard of is rule of Facebook: move fast and break things. And well, you don't really want to break things, but sometimes when you move fast, you do this, right? And I think what Facebook tried to do is actually to reduce these reduce those hesitations when you need to build something. There's always a risk that you will break something, and basically in this way, Facebook, in this way, Facebook tried to tell their teams that they should take a bigger risk for the sake of moving fast. Another thing that Ben Horowitz mentioned was a rule by Amazon, very famous rule. So in Amazon, there are no PowerPoints or no presentation on meetings. Instead, if you want to have a meeting and you gather people in the meeting room, you prepare a 6-page narrative memo. And in the first 20 minutes of the meeting, you read all the 6 pages by all the group. And it helps them to kind of distill the right reasoning and let everyone to be on the same page when they have a meeting. And in this way, Amazon tried to crystallize thinking process by putting it on a paper. So an anatomy of shocking rule, also provided in the book of Ben Horowitz, was 4 key parts. It must be memorable. It must raise questions from the organization. Why? It has cultural impact, and this is very straightforward. And people must encounter rule almost daily. So what we recently did in Preply was a change of one of our values. So Preply shocking rule. We had, one of our values was customer obsession. And what I saw in the organization is that different people relate different to the word customer. And some would say, my customer is internal customer, and I'm preparing data for my internal customer, or I'm introducing new policies for my internal customer. And then we also had tutor team that would say, my customer is a tutor. But what we really wanted from the organization is organization to think about learners in the first place. And that's exactly what we mean when we introduce customer obsession. So we changed it quite quickly to learners obsession, and immediately we received many whys from HR and finance team. Basically, how can I relate to learners obsession if I don't have as kind of I can't reach them and impact their lives directly? And tutors team had the same. And basically, the explanation of ours was that our mission belongs to learner. We partner with our tutors to provide the most effective way of learning a foreign language. And if you work in HR and finance, your goal is to simplify life of other preppers and make sure that we run well to then simplify life of to our learners. And then the last piece was that we face such cases daily. So daily we face cases when we need to prioritize, and now we prioritize towards learner. So that's quite it. And one thing that I wanted to highlight, that you probably need a good culture code to create clarity and alignment within the team, what is important and how you make decisions. It also will help you to scale easily and consistently, and you'll be surprised how well it can work. And it definitely saves times on arguments and reduces management load. You just need to spend less time understanding each other. That's all. Thank you. And I guess now it's going to be questions. So I see one question in the chat. How early in a startup should leadership team define values they want to be followed? So if you can do this from the very beginning, I think it would be amazing. Though my own experience tells that when you're a first-time founder and you're starting a company, you don't know, all the values yet. You don't know what is good and you don't know what is not good for your organization, and you learn it on the go. And I think initial set of values would actually be not written, but it will be shared values between co-founders. So things you agree on, things how you build product, things how you communicate with your customers, how you communicate between each other. It's probably going to be not written in the first phase, but as soon as you start, as soon as you can start, having a bit more clarity of those behaviors and rules, I think the better.
Thank you, Kirill. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for this super useful and pragmatic speech. I've learned a lot of things. I was wondering on this topic, so everybody feel free to ask questions in the chat. I will take it. It's a moment to ask questions to Kirill. I was wondering, really at the very, very beginning, I mean, how do you realize your own values?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. Thank you. I think that for us, it basically worked in a way that initially when we started hiring people, we started trying to understand what behavior we like and what behavior we don't like, right? And what decisions we like and what decisions we don't like. And it was really conversation between three co-founders initially. So we were trying, to understand better how we should build product, how we should do marketing, etc. I think it's just conversations and being aware that when you hire people, you introduce new culture in your organization. And I think it's kind of it's about being conscious of and aware of the fact that culture exists, and you need to start understanding it better and then shape it.
Okay. Kirill, your culture is really Silicon Valley style, very product driven. How do you check when you are interviewing someone to hire a new employee that this person is actually aligned with your values?
So I see two methods, to be honest. Maybe three. So the first method would be quite classic these days. It's called STAR, and basically STAR approach. It's a behavioral interview, understanding how people behaved before, and STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. And basically, I would ask Alice, could you provide a situation from your past when you simplified something, and you would provide me a context, of the situation. I would then ask, and what the goal you put in front of yourself in that situation. You would share this goal, and then I would say, okay, and what actions did you take? And you would describe the actions that you took in that situation before. And then in the end, I would also ask about results. Right, and in this way, you can, see how person behaved in the previous situations and what were values behind. So that's kind of one case. One situation is very good to start with. I've seen some others. So we work with a couple of advisors, and one advisor is doing culture interview really, really nice. But he basically provides you a mini case studies, like, for example, there are two players on the market, like two players that provide online language tutoring. And one player has a small margin and allows tutors to set the price. And another platform set prices instead of tutors and have a high margin. What do you think is better and why? Right, and it's kind of, small mini case study, and the person would try to kind of, come up with some thinking, which model would be better and why. And through this thinking, you can ask follow-up questions and dive deeper and see what would be the priorities for the person. Would this person mention, what is best for customer? Would this person mention what is the best for revenue or for tutors? Would this person be pragmatic in thinking? So that's kind of that's another approach that I would say exists.
Cool. And if you want to join in to ask questions directly to Kirill, you can as well. So we have a question: how to work with a talent employee who does not fit your value at the beginning?
Unfortunately, I believe that values, those are kind of deep beliefs that it's almost impossible to change. So probably it's possible to change, but person really wants to have this change, and it may take a couple of years. It's a little bit and I think that from my experience, if there is no good culture fit, you probably need to part ways with this person at some point.
At the end of the day, the conclusion would be you cannot negotiate with your values. You can negotiate with skills if you want, because you can learn anything basically, but you cannot negotiate with the values. Right?
Yeah, that would be my my thoughts and my current understanding of culture as well.
And I'm sorry, Kirill, but I'm not sure I understood or I hear it well, but if you had to give us your 3 main values at Preply, what would it be?
So we have 6, and it's like kids, right? You cannot select one of them. So we are human, we are hacker, we are hungry, we are learners obsessed, curious, and humble.
So cool. A lot of H.
A lot of H. Initially, the idea was to have only H, but we couldn't find all the names that would start from H and would reflect our values.
All right. Last thing that you would give as an advice to the young founders or the new founders following us, if they want to start tomorrow working on their culture, what would you tell them? What should they do tomorrow?
I would say gather people and ask them what is the culture today, and try to understand, if you as a founder sees culture the same way as people that you have in your team, and you might be surprised.
I love that. You're talking about collective intelligence and using the crowd or your team basically to nurture your own intuition, because you as a founder, what are your values, but you need their words to reveal this culture. Okay, very
Absolutely.
interesting. Okay, my friends, I think we all need to go now. Thank you, Kirill, for this really marvelous speech. Thank you for your time. I think we're gonna wrap up very quickly. So we go on stage. Okay, if you're on Open, we go on stage, and I will share with you some little things before we go to the chat roulette. Thank you, Kirill. See you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.